Guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to be getting into the final edition of my draft grades videos, finishing things up with the NFC East and the AFC East. You can take a look, just a glimpse at where we are at with all these teams. So far, most teams, for just a reference here, I'm for this draft, I'm saying B is like an average. So all these teams are average. This is like above average, and these are good, really good drafts here. Because, I expect teams to get at least a B on a draft. It's not like a C where that's the average. But anyway, yeah, let's get into this draft. And we're going to start out with the New York Giants, as you can see right here. And the Giants, they start out with a home run pick, Malik Neighbors, A+. I'm very glad they didn't trade up, take the quarterback, get some weapons in the building. Whether a Daniel Jones is your QB of the future or not, probably not the all-time future, but for at least a few years if he can ball out this year. And play kind of like that Daniel Jones we saw a couple years ago before his contract extension. You get Malik Neighbors in the building to help him out. This was a horrible offense just overall last year, and it's not really changed through free agency. So you really needed that elite wide receiver. I really like the addition of Malik Neighbors for New York. And then Tyler Nubin, safety out of Minnesota. It's a fine pick. It's in the middle of the second. I do give it a C. I'm just not as high on Tyler Nubin. I don't think he has a very high ceiling. Just doesn't have some of that athleticism that I think of players like, Tyke Smith, Malik Mutafe, who two players I'm very high on with high upside in my opinion. And whatever that Utah corner that's slipping my mind. I believe he went to one of these teams. Cole Bishop, that's who it was. Yeah. Went to the Bills. But yeah, I would have preferred to go with those guys, but it's not the worst pick in the world. He, I think, has a good floor, so will be a decent player. And then Andrew Phillips, cornerback out of Kentucky. I think this is a steal. Had a second-round grade for me. A+ pick. Needed a corner in the building there to pair with the Deonte Banks they got last year, and they get a good one there. And then a decent day 3, so not a whole lot of picks for the Giants to discuss there. Kind of getting a quick one to start. I do give the Giants an A- grade here. I'm going to put them right there in that tier. So good draft for the Giants. Not really much you can complain with the assets they were given there. Besides maybe the Tyler Nubin pick, but I know a lot of people are going to be high on that pick. You look 2 steals in my opinion in the top 3 rounds. That's enough to propel it to an A- at least. All right, but then we get to the Eagles. A lot to discuss with this draft. I just think the Eagles killed it once again. Oh man, always the Eagles seem to kill NFL drafts. And it does start out with the Quinyon Mitchell pick. In my mock draft, right before the draft, I said the Eagles should trade up for Quinyon Mitchell to the 9th pick, I believe, with the Bears it was. To get Quinyon Mitchell at 22, who in my opinion is the best cornerback in this class, a lockdown cornerback prospect, it's just too easy. Man, for the Philadelphia Eagles to make that pick. They needed a cornerback in the building, and they got one at 22. That's a freaking steal. And then they get Cooper DeJean out of Iowa as well. The next team we talk about traded down with the Eagles. Eagles traded up to get him. And Cooper DeJean is a true first-round talent. He can play slot corner for the Eagles. They need that fit, or he can play safety. And I think he's going to be very, very good at either of those positions. I know they go with 2 corners, But think of these are two different players here with Cooper DeJean and Quinion. If we're talking outside corners, Cooper DeJean is my corner 4, but if he's playing slot or safety, man, he is going to be a great player for the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's just a steal. Man, Howie just continues to rob here with the 4th pick. Or sorry, with the NFL draft. All right. I do have some question marks with Jalix Hunt out of Houston Christian. I think there were some better players available here. I think you could have waited on him, but it's a fine pick. I think that's their only really pick I'm not excited about because they got some good players in day 3 that I want to talk about. Will Shipley, good running back pick. Jeremy Trotter, though, out of Clemson, I had a 3rd round talent on him. Eagles legend of his son here. To get him in the 5th round is just a steal. I think he's a good run defender. Has some tools to work with to be a solid linebacker. Could development some of that pass coverage abilities, but other than that, I think that's a great pick in the 5th round and a player I would have thought of in the 3rd. And then Johnny Wilson, also a player in the 3rd round. They get him in the 6th round. He's a very polarizing prospect. I got why teams didn't like him, even in like the 4th round, because of how big he is. He's just a very interesting. Go search up Johnny Wilson highlights and you'll just see some crazy things, but he's very good at what he does. If he can work on some of that catching abilities, it's just going to be hard to stop this man, unless you can, get him in the line of scrimmage. But other than that, he's a fast for his size. He's big. I think he should have gone in at least the 4th round. The 6th round, I just think the NFL was overthinking this guy. He's a great fit for I guess not the greatest fit for the Eagles, but, in the 6th round, it doesn't matter about the fit. You're getting a 6th round great pick. So, Eagles, that's a tremendous draft for me. I'm giving this an A+ draft. Spoiler alert, A+ went to the best pick, so we're going to have no other A+ teams. This is my favorite draft of this entire process with their top 2 picks. The only pick I'm hesitant on is the Jalix Hunt pick, but really all of these teams have at least a pick I'm hesitant on. A lot of teams, especially in the first 3 picks, and then they really made up for it with those day 3 picks. And all the other day 3 picks I didn't mention are also really solid picks too. I just don't see a bad pick in there. And Jalix Hunt isn't even a bad pick. It's just a pick I have some questions on. So that's an A+ draft for me. It doesn't get much better than that for the Eagles, and it just seems like every year they get a really good draft. This year just feels like it's different, though, and a whole nother level for them. So I really like that draft for the Eagles. Give me an A+ for them. But then, so we got with the 2 good teams. I'm going to actually have to say it. The next 2 teams, I think, did just not have as good of drafts. Let's start out with the Washington Commanders. I'm just going to throw it out there. I think Jaden Daniels you should have gone with Drake May here. Drake May, I think, was the better QB prospect in a lot of ways. Arm talent, he's the younger player. I think arguably he might be more pro-ready than Jaden Daniels, besides the scrambling ability that Jaden Daniels has. But you take a look at Jaden Daniels as a QB prospect. I know there are concerns with Drake May's accuracy that people are pointing out, but I think those same things show up in Jaden Daniels' game. Jaden Daniels, I think he has a good arm, but he doesn't have that elite arm. He is how many years older than Drake May? 3 years? If Drake May's in that offense that LSU's running, I think that LSU team could be a playoff team. I'm just going to say that because Jaden Daniels was on easy mode. That LSU offense was elite down there. I know he won the Heisman. I know he has elite running ability and has some great highlights. But I just think that the hype just went too far on Jaden Daniels. I was pushing for Jaden Daniels when he was back in the, just a first round talent. Like, people were thinking, oh, this guy could go in the first. As a Seahawks fan, I'm like, maybe we should take this guy with our 16th pick. But at 2 is a critical pick, and I think they're going to regret not taking Drake May. Now, this is not to say that I think Drake May is not going to be a bust, because I think the Commanders have a much better position than the Patriots have, and we'll get to the Patriots later. But just on the overall draft here, Drake May, I think, can be an elite QB. Jaden Daniels, I'm not sure. Maybe he can be a top 10 QB, but I'm not betting on that. So I just didn't like the process there. We saw this with Justin Fields as well. Just the hype, because he's a great running QB. He can make some highlights. It's just, I just don't know about it, man. I just don't know. I think that's just a bad pick, especially at 2. Really, because of at 2, it's just a bad pick. I think Drake May was the player there. So I'm going to be critical on that one. And obviously, you're not watching this draft grades video for just the basic analysis. I'm going to give my full thoughts here. I just don't think that's as good of a pick. But they make up for it, at least in the second, with a really good pick in Johnny Newton, interior D-line out of Illinois. A+ pick. This is a true first-round talent. Not the biggest need for them, but it's just too good to pass up there. That'll be a great fit for Dan Quinn. He'll put Johnny Newton to work, and I think, should have gone in the first round easy. I don't know how he slipped, maybe because of the run defense stuff, but those things he can work on. I think he'll be a great interior D-line, and I think we'll look back on this as a pretty big steal for Washington. And then Mike Sainristil. Okay, so I'm going to knock down both of these grades a little bit. Actually, I think I'm going to move this to a B+. The Ben Sinnott pick. Starting out with the Mike Sainristil pick. I mean, it's a good pick. Second round. The reason why, though, these grades are getting knocked down is because you trade down with the Eagles and give them Cooper DeJean, which I think I would have liked that more than them going these two players. But that's the reason why I do knock them a little bit for these two picks. But Ben Sinnott is a good player. Mike Sainristil is a good player out of Michigan. He can play really good in the slot. I think that's where he's best at, but could play outside corner. Second round talent. Not going to have too much complaints about that one. Ben Sinnott, I had rounds 2 to 3 on him. He was my third tight end. I was actually very high in Ben Sinnott, higher than most. So a lot of people might have this as a little bit of a worser grade, but he'll be a great receiving target for Daniels and this Washington offense. They needed that tight end. It's a good pick. So I understand why they traded down. I just would have rather had Cooper DeJean, to be honest with you, because of how good of a player he is. If they took Johnny Newton and Cooper DeJean, I really like those picks for them. But then, third round picks I just really did not like at all. Starting out with Brandon Coleman, interior O-line out of TCU. That's an F for me. I just didn't see it with him. He's a developmental tackle. Could play guard, but I think he will be in maybe an average guard. That's a maybe. He's just a day 3 player that if you throw him right in the fire, no matter what position he plays, I think he will not be good. I'm going to be honest. And this is at the top of the third round. This is essentially a second round pick. And from my evaluation on Brandon Coleman, I just didn't see it with that guy. So I just don't like him as a third round pick. And then Luke McCaffrey, I also think that's a day 3 player that went in the third round to the Washington Commanders. Now, being said, this is at the end of the third round, so I understand that, but I just think there was a large variety of players better than Luke McCaffrey here. Just a ton. I just didn't see it, honestly, with Luke McCaffrey, and I give that one a D+. So the Jaden Daniels and those 2 third-round picks, I think, are going to knock this Commanders draft down. They had a good, decent day 3. Nothing really to talk about there. So I'm going to give the Commanders a C for this draft. I just can't get behind the taking Daniels over May and those third round picks. I think those really knock it down. I just didn't really like the draft, man, for the Commanders. I'm just going to be real with you. We'll see what happens. Jaden Daniels could turn into a really good player. We'll see. But I'm not all powerful. I'm not all knowing, but I got to have some takes. You know what I'm saying? If any Commanders fans are watching this, let me know what you think of my grade there. And see, I want to know your thoughts on this draft because I've heard mixed opinions on this Commanders draft for sure. Anyway, that's Washington. Give me a C for them. And then we get to the Dallas Cowboys rounding out this this whole NFC East. The Cowboys did trade down, take Tyler Guyton, and I respect them for trading down here. I think they probably would have thought Jordan Morgan was going to be there at 29, and they were going to take that kind of a player. But he did go to the Cowboys unexpectedly. My next best offensive tackle was Tyler Guyton. I would have preferred Jackson Powers-Johnson here, but I could see Tyler Guyton here. I just think Tyler Guyton was kind of overhyped. I think he has a long ways to go. He's very similar to the BYU prospect Kingsley Sumate as a tackle. We'll see. I think you need to give him a year to develop, but the Cowboys have had success at that over the years, so I could see what they were thinking there. And then Marshawn Kneeland is a good pick. I did have a third-round grade for me, but I think that's just an excellent fit. The edge player out of Western Michigan. He's kind of an elite rotational edge player. I think will be in the NFL. I don't think he's going to be a second edge player, but you put him in, he'll come in, eat up snaps, be a good edge player, and get you some pass rushes. So, which is obviously in the second round, that's a good player to take at such an important position. So I see what they were thinking there. And then Cooper Beebe at 73 out of Kansas State. This is a steal for me. I had a second round grade on him. That's just a great pick, man. I really like Cooper Beebe as that in zone, or sorry, not the wide zone. It's slipping my mind, but whatever the pushing, grind it out, right down the middle running style, he's going to be a great guard at that out of Kansas State. Has those traits to do that. Cowboys will like to do that, I think. So, I think that's a great fit, especially in the third round to get him there. Also, I think they picked up that third round from the trade down, so I can very much see why they wanted to trade down there because of how many needs kind of this team has developed over the offseason. But the pick that really I don't like is the Maurice Lufay pick out of Notre Dame. I just didn't see this. There was a lot of better linebacker prospects available. Even the Jeremy Trotter pick that we mentioned that the Eagles got in the 5th. I don't see it with him. I think he's a special teamer. That's just my personal opinion. Now, the Cowboys do need a linebacker. That's the reason why I don't think this is an F pick. But, I didn't see it with him, honestly. And then finishing it up, I want to shout out the Kalen Carson pick. He was my last player on my top 64 players left in this draft. Went at 174. Now, I do believe there were some injury concerns with him. That was the main reason why he slid. But out of Wake Forest, I was a big fan of both Kalen Carson and Malik Mutafe, the Wake Forest safety. And then now, obviously, this cornerback. He was a top 10 corner for me. Very big cornerback. Or not big, but, your prototypical tall corner. Has the traits to be a very good corner, a press corner. I think he'll be a great cornerback if he can battle those injury concerns. And you get that in the 5th round, that's a good pick. So that does kind of make up. If you switch them, release Lufay and the Kalen Carson pick, I think this looks like a better draft. But obviously, you can't really do that and judge it on that. So Cowboys were very close for me between a B- and a C+. I did end up going with a B-. I can see the vision here in this draft. While I do disagree in some picks, I think they did attack their needs. So that's why I think that's a B- pick. Now remember, I think that's a below average draft, but still a fine enough draft for Dallas there. So that's the NFCs. Let's get to the final division here with the AFC East. Starting out with the Miami Dolphins here. And the Dolphins at 21 went with Chop Robinson. I'm going to give this a C+ pick. I thought there were some better players available, especially the Johnny Newton, who went in the 2nd round. I think that would have been a better pick here. But you go with Chop Robinson. He was my next. Besides the Jonah, did I have Jonah Ellis above Chop? I believe I did, which was a hot take, but I'm not going to count that because I was very much higher on Jonah Ellis than a lot of people were. Chop Robinson is that kind of player that, the next best edge player, because I think Jonah and Chop were very even. Chop may have a higher ceiling. So I can see why they went with that. They're obviously not confident in that edge room, especially with the health there. So I see that. You obviously would want Dallas Turner and Liatu to continue to slide there. And Jared Verse, but they don't. So Chop Robinson's a decent enough pick. But I think there were some other directions, not just edge, but other positions of need that they could have gone with there. And then Patrick Paul out of Houston. It's another fine pick. I just didn't really see it with Patrick Paul. As a 2nd round pick. He's also a long way to go to be an offensive tackle. But again, it's a position of need for the Dolphins. They needed it. But there were some better players, I think, available, especially in the 2nd round, the middle of the 2nd. So I do have some questions with that pick. And then you get to day 3. And this is where it really kind of saves the draft for me. Jalen Wright, running back out of Tennessee. That fits perfectly into that running back room that they want. Very speedy backs. He'll fit right in, man. I mean, you just get another speedy running back who I had a 3rd or 4th round grade on. Give me an A for that one. Moam Kamara out of Colorado State. A+ pick in the 3rd round. I really like the double dip strategy here. The 5th round. Double dip strategy. I think this guy could have been a 3rd round pick here. Very good rotational edge player that he can fit into this Dolphins team. And the 5th round, that's a great pick. Malik Washington out of Virginia. Speedy guy again here. They get that player. Give me an A+. Steal pick. You kind of need that. Besides the 3 wide receivers they got right now, you kind of need a good depth there at wide receiver. I think they filled that in with Malik Washington. And then some fine enough picks. I do have my questions with both those picks, but I'm not going to go into that. So Miami, again, with Dallas, very close to being an C+ or a B-. I did end up giving them slightly a B- because very similar to the Cowboys. I think they addressed their needs here. Didn't have a lot of picks. I think the day 3 especially really helped them out. But yeah, I have questions about their draft. It's very tight between the Cowboys and Dolphins. You could go either way with these two teams. I'm going to slightly give that one to the Cowboys, but again, you could go either way. All right, we got the Bills up next. Bills, I think they did a decent job with the draft. Obviously, the weird process of trading down with the Chiefs kind of got me a little bit, but I can see they were desperate to trade down. This team, if you followed them through the offseason, they've let go of a lot of players, man. They needed to kind of rebuild this team, accumulate a lot of draft picks. Then they trade down again with the Panthers and accumulate an extra pick. I can see why they would do that. Get a lot more dart throws that you can throw at these positions that you need desperately because of how bad this salary cap situation was for this team. But yeah, I mean, speaking of their first pick, Keon Coleman out of Florida State, really good pick. He'll fit right into the Josh Allen deep ball threat that they want there. You know, kind of a poor man Stephon Diggs, honestly. I can see some comparisons there, so I really will see what they liked in him at the beginning of the second. Really good pick for the Bills. Especially when you factor in the trade downs. I think that makes the pick. It obviously have my questions with the trade downs with the Chiefs and trading out of the first so you don't get that 5th-year option, but it's good process, I think, for the Bills. It makes sense. So Bills are kind of surprising people in this whole offseason, but I think they're sneakily having a vision here that a lot of people are missing. And then Cole Bishop at 50. That's an A pick for me. You need a safety. Obviously, you let go of all those safeties that Micah Hyde, Poyer, that were so big in your success on that defensive side of the ball. You need to get that extra safety in the room, and Cole Bishop, I think, is one of is very similar to the player we talked about earlier, Tyler Nubin, floor-wise, but has a higher ceiling, in my opinion. That's why I think he's a better prospect than him in the second. That's a good pick. Then Dwayne Carter, out of Duke. It was a fine pick. I had around 4th to 5th round grade on him. I can see why they liked the upside on that guy, but I didn't really see it with him as a 3rd round player. And then one pick in the day 3 I want to talk about, Cedric Van Prangranger out of Georgia, my interior O-line 8. He'll be a great center that the Bills need at the 5th round. 3rd round talent. I think he has a lot of floor potential to be a good center in the NFL in the 5th round. That's a great pick. So ultimately, really good draft in my opinion for the Bills. I'm going to give him an A-. You know, the Dwayne Carter pick did knock him down from an A. But I have him at the top of A-. Very similar to the Lions where they were kind of very close to being an A team, but couldn't quite make it. All right. 2 more teams to go. We got the Patriots and the Jets. Let's start out with the Pats. And we already talked kind of about Drake May's upside, so I'm not going to go too much into it. I think he has high ceiling, man. Young player. Very good arm. You know, I think the accuracy stuff has been very overstated with him. He's is probably his biggest weakness besides maybe his, I guess running after the line of scrimmage. I don't know what you call that, but running ability once you're past the line of scrimmage trying to run. But yeah, I mean, he has some room to grow with the accuracy, but I think he could still be a good player. I think he's very similar to, in most drafts, I think he would be a number 1 pick. So that's right on the level of like the Bryce Young from last year, in my opinion, or the Kyler Murray's or whoever you might say there. But Obviously, Caleb Williams in the draft, and Caleb Williams is a different type of prospect. But yeah, I mean, Drake May, I will have to say about this, I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but if I'm the Patriots, I am giving Drake May a year to sit behind Jacoby Brissett because of how bad this offense is, and we will get to this as well. I don't really think they did a good job filling out some of these needs. I could see a very similar situation to Bryce Young if they throw Drake May right in the fire. Bryce Young, I think, was a very good prospect. You watch his tape out of Alabama, I think you would agree, but he got thrown into the wrong place at the wrong time. So it's very similar. I think they need to give it some time with Drake May. And develop this offense because you look at their next pick, Jalen Polk out of Washington. I just think there were so many better. Adonai Mitchell on the board would have been a great pick. You go with Jalen Polk. I'm just so whelmed with Jalen Polk. I mean, he's a decent player, but he's not going to be a game changer at all. He's just going to be a decent wide receiver. That's all I see in Jalen Polk out of Washington. So I'm giving that one a D+. It's not really all because of Jalen Polk. It's really because of how many better wide receivers I think were available there. That's really gets the ding on that. I mean, Jalen Polk, I think, will be a decent receiver, but nothing more than a average to above average player. And then Caden Wallace out of Penn State. I'm giving this one a D. He's just your typical day 3 developmental tackle out of Penn State. Obviously Penn State has some weird coaching things there, especially in the O-line at times. But I just didn't see that with Caden Wallace. Give me a D on that one. Day 3 developmental offensive tackle. I think he has a long ways to go to be a player. Day 3 tackles usually don't work out in my eyes, but you never know. It's a 3rd round pick. At the top of the 3rd round, though, too. That's really rough process for me with him. All right, but I will say the Team Bell pick at in the 7th round. He was my 7th tight end. Great receiving threat. A+ pick for me. I think if he makes the team, watch out. I think he will make the team, so watch out for him to be a good weapon. And then I will give them this actually as well. Javon Baker, I think, was a good, different type of higher ceiling wide receiver prospect that I liked in the 4th round. He has a long ways to go, but I like the double dip strategy at the top of the 4th to go with Javon Baker. So, yeah, I mean, the Patriots had an interesting draft. I do give them a C+. I think they really swung and missed on those 2nd round picks. And if they start Drake May right away, I did like the Drake May pick. The reason why it's an A- and not an A is because of the things I talked about with that just entire offense. It's not about Drake May. It's about that offense that the Patriots have got. And yeah, if they throw him right in the fire, I'm going to be honest, I am very worried about Drake May. But we'll see what happens. Patriots, I think, get a C+. Not the end of the world, but I think they could have hit a lot better in those 2 picks, really. Those 2 picks in the 2nd and 3rd. All right. Finally, last team here, we got the Jets to finish off this draft. These draft grades. So, Jets, I think, had a good draft. Starting off with the Olu Fushanu pick out of not Notre Dame. That's wrong. Penn State. My bad. But yeah, Olu Fushanu, I think, was a very high floor, but still has that high ceiling tackle, top 10 tackle that you are betting on here. I think, obviously, you got Joe Wall in this draft, but after Joe Wall, I think he's the next best tackle player. So, to get him at 11, I know they wanted some weapons for Aaron Rodgers. I can understand some of the concern there, but you need to protect Aaron Rodgers as well. We saw Aaron Rodgers got injured on the first snap. You need to protect him. So I really like that pick out of Penn State, Olufushanu. And then you got Malachi Corley out of Western Kentucky. Fun fact, this guy was my 65th best player available. That's right at the that's right exactly on where he went. So, a little bit of a woot for me, I guess. But yeah, that's an A pick. You went with the tackle in the first round. You needed that extra weapon for Aaron Rodgers. Malachi Corley, I think, is a good intermediate weapon for you and will pair nicely with Wilson there. And then did some good day 3 picks, especially want to talk about 2 of them. The Braylon Allen pick. It was very close to Malachi Corley as a prospect for me in the 4th round, end of the 4th. That's an A+ pick for me. To be behind Breece Hall as a running back 2. Great pick. That'll be a great running back duo there if they can stay healthy. And then Jordan Travis out of Florida State. Good pick there to get Aaron Rodgers a backup. Some injury concerns there, but if it's not for the injuries, I think he could be potentially a starter in the future in the league. But if nothing else, again, minus the injuries, the injury concerns are real with him. He's just coming off a critical injury, but minus the injuries, I think he will be a good backup at best or at worst. Again, minus the injuries. Gotta state that. But anyway, that is the Jets draft. I'm giving them an A. I just really don't have any criticisms of this draft. Does it blow me away like the Eagles draft where it's an A+? No, it doesn't, but it's an A draft. It's a very, very good draft. Right in that middle of A. Right there for the Jets. All right, guys. Thank y'all for watching this video today. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the content. Comment down below your opinions. I really want to hear some of your thoughts, especially on the Drake May, Jaden Daniels debate. But anyway, guys, thank y'all for watching. Peace out.